I'm curious if these 3 statements sound familiar to you. When my boss asks me a question in a meeting, my mind goes blank. I hate brainstorming meetings in English. Everyone's sitting there looking at me, waiting for me to speak. But I panic and I don't have anything to say. I feel so embarrassed. Or maybe number 3 sounds familiar to you. This is something that one of my students recently said to me. Anne-Marie, I'm frustrated because my coworkers share ideas that I have in business meetings, but when it's my turn to speak, I forget everything I want to say. So I never get the opportunity to share my ideas. If any of that sounds familiar to you, I hear you. Of course, it's possible that you're stuck and frustrated because when you know you have to communicate in English, your anxiety increases, which makes it more difficult to think clearly. Or perhaps you're an introvert, and like many introverts, you prefer or even need time to think before you speak. You're an internal processor. Or perhaps it's both. I'm Anne-Marie with Speak Confident English. This is exactly where you want to be every week to get the confidence you want for your life and work in English. Whether you're struggling to communicate effectively when brainstorming in English due to increased anxiety, or because you're an introvert who needs more time to think, in today's lesson I have 4 tips and 9 magic phrases to help you get the time you need to think so that you are ready to communicate your ideas confidently in English. Let's get started right away with tip number 1, prepare in advance. Now, I know that one seems obvious, but truthfully, we don't always do it. We might be pressed for time or feel overwhelmed. But there is a quick, simple way that you can get familiar with the topics that are going to be discussed and have the time you need to fully formulate your ideas so that you can deliver them with confidence. In my Fluency School course, I love working with my students on developing mind maps or learning to outline their ideas with just a few keywords. It certainly is not worth your time to write down every sentence you need because in a business meeting, of course, you can't read everything that you want to say. You need to be able to communicate in the moment. So reviewing the agenda in advance and then taking a few minutes to create a quick mind map or jot down a few keywords can help you be prepared to share what you want in the business meeting. Now, I know you might be thinking, but what if there isn't an agenda provided in advance? Ask. And this is your first magic phrase for today's lesson on brainstorming in English. A simple, effective way to ask for the agenda is to say, would you mind sharing the agenda in advance? I'd like to have time to prepare before the meeting. I can promise you that most of the time, a business owner, supervisor, or manager will really like to hear those magic words. I'd like to prepare before the meeting, or I'd like to prepare in advance. Tip number 2 for effectively brainstorming in English is to ask for time to think. Again, whether you have increased anxiety because you're trying to find the right words in English, or you're an introvert like me and you just really want the time to organize your thoughts, ask for the time to think. In fact, in English, we have a wonderful idiom for this. Have you heard the idiom, to buy yourself some time? What that means is to do or say something that allows you to stall or delay. In this case, delay speaking. So whether you're asked a question directly in a meeting and you have that initial moment of panic, or there's a conversation happening around you and you know that at some point it's going to be your turn to speak, but you're still not ready, here are 3 magic phrases you can use to buy yourself some time. Number 1, I'm still thinking this through, or I'm still thinking. Do you mind coming back to me in a moment? Number 2, I'm still mulling this over. Would you mind coming back to me? To mull something over means to think carefully about it for a period of time. Number 3, I've got some ideas on this brewing, or I've got some thoughts brewing. Could you come back to me in a moment? Now, I know that you can't always buy yourself some time. There are situations where someone asks a question and you have to be ready to respond. So we'll talk about that in a moment with tip 3. But before we get there, there's one more thing that you could do to buy yourself a little bit of time to think, organize your ideas, and be a voice for the other introverts in the room who are also desperately hoping for time to think. You could ask your group or team members, could we pause for just 1 minute and take time to jot down a few notes? This is definitely helpful for those of us in the room who need to process internally. I can promise you, if you ask a question like that, there will be others in the room who will thank you for it. And now let's go on to tip number 3, when you have to respond in the moment, but you're feeling that sense of panic because you haven't fully formed your ideas. Be okay with unfinished ideas. If you're like most introverts, I know that you prefer to have your idea fully formed before you share it. You don't like thinking on your feet or thinking out loud. In other words, you struggle to express your thoughts the moment they occur. Again, you prefer to think in advance. The same may be true if you're struggling to find the right words that you want in English. If you're feeling uncomfortable with an unfinished idea, but you know you have to say something, here are 3 magic phrases that can help. Number 1, I'm just thinking out loud with this, but... For example, I'm just thinking out loud with this, but what if we tried? And then you continue with the idea that you do have. It may not be fully formed, but it's a start. A second option, I haven't figured it all out yet, but. I haven't figured it all out yet, but one thing I'm thinking is, and then again, you continue with your idea. And number 3, well, I'm still putting the pieces together, but each of these sentence starters gives you the permission to have an unfinished idea. It's also a signal to everyone listening to you that you're just thinking out loud. You're still figuring out all the little pieces. And that's the whole point of brainstorming. There may be someone else in the room who has the missing piece to your idea. And finally, tip number 4, for effectively brainstorming in English, especially if you're an introvert, is to take advantage of your strong listening skills. Introverts tend to be fantastic active listeners. In a brainstorming meeting, you can benefit from this by listening carefully to what everyone else has to say, and then when it's your turn, you can respond to something that someone else has said. That may be backing up or supporting someone else's idea. Perhaps it's offering a different perspective. Or maybe in this case, you're the one with the missing piece to the puzzle. Either way, taking the time to listen to everyone else in the room can give you the time that you need to think about what's being said and be ready to add your thoughts or ideas. And here are 2 magic phrases to help you do that. Number 1, I liked Mariana's point about because. Of course, here you would rephrase the key point or idea that someone else shared and then be prepared to state why you think that's a good idea. A second option, while listening to Mariana, I had another thought or I had another perspective come to mind. And then, of course, you would continue with sharing your idea. Before we finish for today, let's do a quick recap, and I've got a challenge question for you. So, the 4 tips to help you effectively communicate your ideas when brainstorming in English are to, number 1, prepare in advance. Number 2, ask to have time to think. Number 3, be okay with an unfinished idea. And number 4, take advantage of your strong listening skills. If one of these phrases was particularly helpful to you, I would love to know which one it is. You can share with me below your favorite new phrase or expression from today's lesson and try to use it in an example sentence. Maybe you have a business meeting coming up soon. You could use this as an opportunity to practice using that new sentence starter or phrase and get comfortable with it. If you found this lesson helpful to you, I would love to know. And as always, you can tell me in 2 simple ways. Number 1, give this lesson a thumbs up here on YouTube and subscribe to the Speak Confident English channel so you never miss one of my Confident English lessons. And number 2, if you have a friend or coworker who's also struggling with brainstorming in English, be sure to share this lesson directly with them. You can do that by sharing it on Facebook or by email. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you next time for your Confident English lesson.